Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to present a procedure for awarding of service contract of a very limited amount of money. Let's say that according to the practical guide, until 2012, a very limited amount of money was up to 10,000 euro. According to practical guide 2013, we have now that the threshold has been elevated to 60,000 euro. But now not anymore there is a reference to the single tender, but there is a reference to the procedure selected by the grant beneficiary. We encourage our grant beneficiary that need to implement service contract of a limited value to consider nevertheless limited value up to 10,000 euro. And in case the value is above 10,000 euro, to use always the competitive negotiated procedure that is a bit more robust and that is a bit more useful, considering that in some countries 40, 50, 60,000 euro, 30,000 euro, 20,000 euro, it is still a relevant amount of money. So to use this procedure that we are going to present today only for tenders up to 10,000 euro. What is important to point out, a single tender also of a tender for service, even if it is of a limited value, it is not comparable to a supply tender of limited value. Because while in the case of a supply tender of limited value, the importance of the tender itself is limited, for instance, to buy meals for 20 people, 300 euro. And that is an activity that is going to last only one day, with no consequences on the future. When we refer to service contract of limited amount of money, it could be 150, 200, 300 euro, but nevertheless these contracts require a bit more of attention because the obligations of the consultant in the performance of the activities to be done is much more important for future activities. Try to imagine that you want to hire a professional to make the evaluation of a tender. On the basis of this evaluation, you are going to award a contract of 100,000 euro, for instance. So the consequences of the activities that you are implemented are much more visible in the time. So it is better to have everything clearly expressed in a proper contract with the expert, also to have proper allocation of responsibilities and separation for responsibility between you, the expert, and so on and so forth. Additionally, when we speak of service, always you must be clear what you expect to receive from the consultant. You can't expect that you can make a contract old style, now you need that, you do in this way or in the other way, because you are not going to be sure about what is going to be the final product, and that could be quite a problem for the implementation of your grant contract. So we encourage you to have always something written, very clear procedures to be followed. In the procedure for single tender, of course, the entire procedure is very limited, meaning that we can't have a very heavy procedure. It is important that you realize this service contract with the support of professionals you know, that you are aware they are of good quality, that they are able, because they have already done, to perform properly the contract you want to implement. And for that reason, we address in our procedures both the part related to the tender, to the procurement, and the part related to the contract. So both are clearly described, both are clearly put black on white, so that you can be sure that everything is going to be as it is written. And in case of misunderstanding, there is always a written document that is clearly explaining what are your obligations and what are the obligations of the consultant. In the manual, this chapter dealing with the preparation of service contract is split in three parts. In the first part, we addressed the entire procedure, from the moment you want to launch the tender for service to the final approval of the output prepared by the consultant and the final payment of the consultant. Then the same procedure is addressed in an audit trail that is a kind of summary of all this procedure, of the procedure, that is highlighting also who is responsible for what and what is the circuit of the documents and what are the documents that you need to use in order to implement the procedure. So that the grant beneficiary can easily implement the procedure just following the audit trail that is giving in order the description of all these activities. And finally, we have the third chapter, the third paragraph of the chapter related to the preparation of this service contract with single tender procedure that is dealing with the preparation of the tender dossier. The preparation of the tender dossier is very important because in that document you summarize all the obligations that you have with the consultant and, even more important, what are the obligations that the consultant is having with the organization. And it is important not to make mistakes because that would be a bit unpleasant, even if it is not a very formal procedure, the one that is followed for single tender, but it would be unpleasant to ask the consultant to revise here and there after you have reached an agreement. And therefore, this part must be properly prepared by the grant beneficiaries. And we are also providing for some type of tender terms of reference, some examples that could be copied by the grant beneficiary into the tender dossier after tailoring them to the specific needs of the service contract to be implemented. So, thanks a lot for your attention, and I'm going now to present the two parts that are relevant for you, meaning the entire procedure from the moment that you think of launching the tender dossier to the final acceptance of the work carried out by the consultant and the final payment through the audit trail presentation. And I'm going to present the hints that we have elaborated for the preparation of the tender dossier so that you can use them as a reference for the preparation of your tender dossier. Thanks a lot for your attention, and we will continue with the next two phases. Thank you.